I personally was 10 years old when Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens came out in 2015, and when Creed came out in 2015, and when Jurassic World came out in 2015, and when Mad Max Fury Road came out in 2015, and when War Room came out in 2015, which isn't a legacy sequel or even really much of a movie, honestly, but I just think that's really funny. The idea of legacy sequels, or Legacyquels if you will, I think it really caught on at around that time, 2015 or so, when the nostalgia boner for the beloved hits of the 80s and 90s was at its highest, considering, the kids from that era were entering mid-adulthood at that point. They were having kids of their own for some reason, ones they'd want to share the same experiences with that they had as kids with their parents, so there were definitely traces of this happening earlier. From that lens, bringing in billions of beans banking on people's childhood memories was just such a natural idea. Yeah, but from the lens of literally anything else,
I've got a cold, yippee-ki-yay me, but I am kicking this thing's ass. In just the last couple of hours, I have put an entire half gallon of orange juice out of its misery. My stomach line is not gonna know what hit it. But I do have this aching feeling that whatever hit it is Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. You know what, actually, I think I want to have my stomach amputated.
So I think I need to establish exactly what I at least think a legacy sequel is. I honestly think it's more than just a sequel that happens a couple of decades after the last one. Much more. It's a movie about legacy, one that focuses on what happens to those original characters in a franchise decades later, and how they affect the people around them, and especially the next generation. So there are some would consider to be legacy sequels that I don't think of that way, like Beetlejuice 2, which feels like more of just a straight-up sequel to me. But who cares? What movie do I think was the first Legacy sequel? Well, George Lucas sure had an interesting decade, didn't he?
2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is what I think ushered in this era of legacy sequels that we're dealing with now, but it did take a few years for that concept to catch on, and for the love of God, I just can't figure out why.
I think the critical backlash to this movie might have held some franchises off from trying this fledgling little trend out for a while. I mean, this was brand new territory, and the first time we really saw this happen, it didn't work out super well. I'm gonna be totally honest, I never really hated this movie like so many others did. It was more of an Attack of the Clones type situation for me than anything else. Like, I think it's pretty mediocrely mid, it's got a whole laundry list of problems, but a lot of stuff I like too. But it also just came out at a weird time. This was just after the Star Wars prequels had come out, and at that time, those things were still the butt of the entire internet, the entire entertainment world even. And I think a lot of people just felt this movie was pointless, a cash grab, that the original Indiana Jones trilogy ended satisfyingly enough and we didn't need more of it, and I actually kind of disagree. For one thing, the first 3 Indiana Jones movies, they are not a trilogy by any means. See, a trilogy isn't just 3 separate stories starring the same guy. No, it's 3 stories that connect as one big story, one complete story. Like, take the Star Wars prequels again, for instance. Those movies connect to tell the story of the fall of Anakin Skywalker from the light side to the dark, and how the galaxy as a whole reflects that, how liberty dies. You need each of these 3 pieces to work together to get that entire story across, as each of them are quintessential for showing us how this happened. Now, that's not to say they did an incredible job at that necessarily, but hey, you get the gist at least. The first 3 Indiana Jones films, on the other hand, you can watch any of those on their own, or in any order you please, and nothing changes at all. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, not at all. It's so unequivocally badass to get this cool adventure serial character, but I don't think the existence of a 4th movie ruins anything. It's not like those 3 movies work together to tell one story or convey one character arc, so adding on to that is totally cool. I think for everyone, Crystal Skull embodied all the problems with 2000s era Lucasfilm, all the problems with the Star Wars prequels, in fact, an over-reliance on blue screens and digital effects, bad pacing, sloppy writing, and lame characters and dialogue that constantly make your eyes just somehow roll by themselves on impulse. And while I do agree with a lot of that, I don't know, I think it's a generally harmless movie for the most part. It's okay. For me, what gets me through it is, what do you know, the legacy sequel stuff. This one brings everything full circle-ish by tying into Raiders of the Lost Ark, by reintroducing Marion, Indy's original-ish love interest, which is really nice. It's so cool seeing her back, and seeing her and Indy's chemistry never really went away. It truly feels like they were, in a way, meant for each other, and it's really wholesome to see them finally tie the knot as a way of rounding out Indiana Jones's character for good. Ish. Oh, and also Shia LaBeouf is their son or whatever. How the fuck do you pronounce that guy's name? I swear to God. Yeah, I sort of forgot about that guy. He is easily the most controversial element of the entire film, and I think that's because in my eyes, he's sort of an embodiment of the entire film as a whole. Its inconsistencies, its flaws, its fleeting good traits, and its messy bad ones. Mutt Williams' whole character kind of boils down to, well, he's Indiana Jones' son, and it's a plot twist, kind of. I mean, I was duped by the plot twists in Shutter Island and Arrival, so I don't think I'm necessarily the world's leading authority on how effective plot twists are or can be, but I don't know. I think this one was painfully obvious from the get-go. Mutt's also just a pretty inconsequential character, too. Like, he doesn't impact the movie that much at all. As soon as Marion is reintroduced to us, he sort of disappears into the background with no real growth or character work, and aside from that, he's kind of just goofy and annoying. But in a weird way, I can't help but think that was sort of planned. What sticks with me that makes me think of that is the film's ending scene, which I can't lie, I think is kinda great. After Indy's wedding, a sudden gust of wind blows the iconic fedora of Indiana Jones right to Mutt's feet. That cannot be a coincidence. This right here is a passing of the torch, a call to adventure, a sign from God in heaven above himself that Mutt, yes, Mutt Williams, will take over the mantle of Indiana Jones, and right before he dons the hat and claims his destiny, his birthright, his kingdom, Indy snatches it right out of his grubby little mitts before strutting right out of that church and the movie as a whole. Like, hell yeah, fuck you, Shia LaBeouf, you stupid cunt. There's only one Indiana Jones, and it sure as shit ain't your bitch ass. But yeah, that's Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a 4 out of 8 nugget mediocrely mid movie. But hey, I like it when sequels try to expand on elements fans didn't like and explore them better. So who knows, if they ever make a hypothetical Indiana Jones 5, I just can't wait to see what they do with Mutt Williams.
Legacyquels sort of just stopped existing for a while there, which is weird, but like, I mean, what even was there? There was Shrek forever after, I guess, but I think I'd rather talk about my root canal than that.
But when the floodgates opened up in 2015, I think it's easy to get why. A few years had passed since 2008 when Kingdom Skull went down. By around 2013, 2014, when all these went into production, and with all these studios seeing all the excitement over the whispers of a new Star Wars in development, I think that's when they realized, hey, people are stupid enough to have fond memories of their childhood now, let's go all in, pal. And they did just that. The first one I want to talk about is Creed, because I think it demonstrates really well exactly what the perfect Legacy sequel is. And also the general style and formula all these movies kind of took on. Rocky was a movie about an underdog fighter who's given the opportunity of a lifetime to take on the world heavyweight boxing champion, and you see this reflected in his personal life too. Because that's what the movie's really about. The boxing, the fighting, it's all a metaphor for the struggles of dealing with life's hardships and exploring Rocky's different relationships with his mentor, with his partner, with the culture around him, resulting in him not winning, but enduring through it all and going the distance. And Creed is the exact same goddamn thing. At first blush, that is. If you watched it without paying any real attention to it, that is. Creed focuses on the illegitimate son of that world heavyweight boxing champ Rocky squared off against in the first one, and the second, and the third. So if you look at the plot, it's the same thing, right? Creed becomes a boxer, he gets help from an old boxing legend who teaches him how to get better, he gets a girlfriend, he gets a huge title shot that he ultimately doesn't win, but all that matters is he went all the way.
And here's the thing, Bucko, you could do that with literally any story ever. Just boil it down to what it is at its most basic. Remove any sense of originality or personality from it and just say, oh wow, another story where a guy does a thing. How original. Literally any story ever. You could just summarize its plot points and compare it to something else to make it seem less original. Well, I think that's really lame and stupid. When it comes to something like Creed, that storytelling is very intentional and also very smart in spite of how lazy it might seem on the surface.
Ask yourself, what even is a story? It's a lot more than just plot points, a basic summary of what happens in a movie. No, it's so much deeper than that. It's the point the plot tries to convey to the viewer. It's the idea that drives the characters to do what they do. It's what everything works together to paint as a cohesive experience. It's the driving force behind everything. Legacyquels use the framing of the old to introduce new ideas, new stories, and new characters. when they're good at least. I mean, sometimes it's just total nostalgia bait, nothing much more, but hey, sometimes you get both, and that can be kind of fun. Creed is a movie all about legacy, and not even really in a meta way. It's more so about choosing whether to forge your own path in life or to follow in the footsteps of those who came before you. I really like first date scenes in movies solely because they're nothing but a big excuse to get across just a slop ton of expository dialogue, but in a fun and, if done well, charming way. And Creed's is one that sticks with me because it sort of gets across the film's whole main point.
I'm just curious, like, what made you want to fight?
My pop was a fighter.
Alright, that makes sense.
What made you want to sing?
It makes me feel alive.
And while I love the character of Adonis Creed and what the film does with him, he's not the only focus here. Wait, whose franchise is this again? Oh yeah, that guy's. I think what separates a bad Legacyquel from a good Legacyquel is just how the film handles, well, its legacy characters, especially the main one. You know, they could just plop some of the original characters in here and leave it at that. Have Rocky be the old sage mentor and nothing else. Don't continue his characterization. Don't give him anything to work with, but no. They know exactly who the hell this guy is, and they know, alright, there's gotta be more. Like you'd expect to see in a story like this, straight from the Greek myths and Arthurian legends, the old bitter guy does deny the call to action first. He's like, nah, I don't want to do this again. I already had a comeback in a pretty damn great movie 9 years ago. But of course, he eventually agrees to help train Adonis. He feels indebted to his father. That fire inside him still burns to some extent, and it all really works. But when Rocky ends up getting diagnosed with some complicated variation of the freaking cancer deluxe, that's when he finally seems to give up for really the first time. See, in the last movie, his wife also died of some other complicated version of the freaking cancer deluxe, which is fun. The point is, she wasn't able to recover from it despite going through the treatments and everything. So he's like, well, I might as well just die now. But after a while, he carries through with it. He fights on because he sees a younger version of himself within Creed who helps carry him through his toughest battle yet. Not with Apollo Creed, not with Mr. T, not with the Russian steroid guy, not with Tommy Morrison, not with Mason the Line Dixon, who I actually think is the best villain in the series, not even with Hulk Hogan, but with the greatest foe of them all, with time, with mortality itself. And he fucking wins!
You taught me how to fight again, and I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna fight this thing. But if I fight, I want you to fight too. I want you to go across this ring and knock that son of a bitch down.
It's a great examination, both of this character and this franchise. It's legacy. This is a great Legacyquel, a great narrative, just a great film as a whole. A 7 out of 8 if I've ever seen one. The only thing I dislike about it is its antagonist. I'm gonna refer to him as Mr. Antagonistic because I'll be honest, I've watched this movie like 5 times and I still have no goddamn clue what this guy's name is. It's not just that he barely gets any screen time, it's that the antagonist of a Rocky film always mirrors whatever personal problem the main character has throughout the movie. Rocky 1, bam. Apollo's life of ease and dominance contrasts with Rocky's impoverished and struggling lifestyle. Rocky 2, kind of the same thing. Rocky 3, evil Mr. T reflects Rocky by being a determined, self-sufficient underdog like Rocky in the first one, who's now become an overconfident, protected, paper champion. Rocky 4, well,
America.
Rocky 5 was the very definition of a mental breakdown personified into film, and I don't think it counts. Like, you can really just skip it and you don't miss nothing. And Balboa's Mason the Line Dixon is a scrappy fighter who's done everything there is to do, but has lost all his passion for the ring, with that fire only being restored by Rocky's resilience through his epic Twilight Year comeback. Again, I think he's kind of the best antagonist in the series, which nobody seems to agree with me on. But what about Mr. Antagonistic? He's a guy. He makes some pot shots about Creed's dad. That's it. And for a movie this damn good, that handles the legacy of the franchise this damn good, you'd think this is something they could really nail considering how important this role is. But you know which Legacyquel does handle its antagonist well? It's Creed 2. Yeah, strap in, Knuckle Chucker, we're doing this one too. Creed 2 is kind of a follow-up to Rocky 4, which is something I think was inevitable from the very start because, well, this is the film where Apollo Creed dies, and it's the goofy, silly US propaganda one. God, I've always hated Rocky 4. I hate its unsubtle jingoistic tone. I hate how fast-paced it is. I hate how its villain, not its antagonist, its villain, is a dry and boring, evil personification of the USSR with no character whose name is literally one letter away from being Dragon. You know, like a 1980s video game boss fight. I hate how it refuses to do any deep character work. I hate its lame-ass ending where Rocky ends the Cold War. I hate all the stupid comedy. I hate how it's just a hodgepodge of bad music videos stapled together. I hate how Apollo Creed's death is treated. I hate that it's pro-America. I hate the fact that I love this movie. Now, none of that is unironic. As someone who likes movies, yeah, this is not a good one. At all, by any seam of a stretch. But I kinda can't help but love how simultaneously mind-numbingly dumb yet packed to the brim with pure testosterone it is. Like, yeah, climb that mountain, you Italian bastard. Now, the director's cut of this movie is, it's slightly better. I mean, it's no Snyder cut per se, but it does take out some of the stupider shit like Polly's weird sex robot. It adds a hint of character to Drago, making him kind of resent his chains, resent his overlords, and it does provide a lot of what the original film needed. A break from the constantly rushing narrative, and a bit more stuff regarding Apollo Creed. So I'd say it takes the original Rocky IV from like a 3 out of 8 to maybe a 4 out of 8, maybe. But you know what makes Rocky IV even better retrospectively, like maybe even a 5 out of 8? It's Creed motherfucking 2, baby! I love Creed 2, and a lot of that is because it's able to go back and take a 30-year-old movie I didn't even really like that much and make it so much better. It takes some pointers from Rocky 2 as well. Adonis wins the world championship, he gets married, he has a kid, but like none of it feels like Rocky 2 at all. It's done totally different. It all means different things for these characters. It's filmed and edited a hell of a lot better than Rocky 2 was. And if anything, it's more of an insight into the cycle of birth and parenthood. The first Creed resolves so much around Apollo Creed and the legacy he left behind for his son. Well, this one, it's more so exploring what legacy Adonis will leave behind for his child, the kind of man he's going to be. Neat shit. This is a much more original movie than anything else. It's not really one where you can say, oh yeah, it just takes Rocky 2 or Rocky 4's plot and does it a bit differently, like you sorta can with the first. But yeah, this one also brings Ivan Drago back, who after losing to Rocky in Rocky 4, which along with Superman getting rid of nukes in Superman 4, somehow caused the collapse of the entire Soviet Union. He now trains his son to fight similar to how Rocky trains Creed, but with more brutality, a lot more sheer determination, willing to do anything to be accepted back at the top of the same society that cast him out. He doesn't really seem to care about Victor, his son, at all. He only uses him as a weapon in the same way he was once used by Russia, because that's all he's ever known. The ultimate showdown here between Adonis Creed and Victor Drago revolves, what do you know, around legacy. Ivan killed Adonis's father in the ring, something Rocky's arguably guilty for considering his hesitation to stop the fight. Will Adonis suffer the same fate? No, actually, in the final fight, the roles are reversed. Drago, Ivan, that is. Or is it Ivan? I don't know how to pronounce any of these names. I swear to God, this is like my kryptonite is just pronouncing names adequately. He ultimately overcomes his cold, obsessive nature and throws in the towel to save his son from Adonis, and even seems to become a better person, a better father afterwards. And speaking of fathers, Rocky has a lot less to do here. He gets a fair amount of screen time, but ultimately goes to be with his estranged son at the end, and that's the bulk of his story, which makes sense. The last one was kind of his last hurrah, his last big victory. Now's the time to let the next generation, to let Creed completely take the spotlight, take the torch, and with the legacy of Apollo Creed fully sealed, it's clearly time to move on to Creed 3, which is not a Legacyquel. This is its own thing, entirely. Well, not really. It's a sequel to Creed 1 and 2 for sure, but it has pretty much nothing at all to do with Rocky. Like, there are a couple of references here and there maybe, but Creed 3 without question solidifies that, yeah, this is a new franchise at this point. One that Rocky doesn't even appear in, which is a genuinely really cool thing to see spawn from a Legacyquel. I really like Creed 3. I mean, yeah, Jonathan Majors is a terrible person who proves cancel culture isn't real, which sucks, but aside from that, I won't get into Creed 3 since it doesn't really fit this convo. It's a pretty great movie, but a pretty awful Legacyquel since it's, not one.
I can't tell if me loving the Creed movies makes me a basic bitch-ass white guy or appropriating black culture. I mean, white culture is pretty much just stealing shit from brown people, so like, I guess it's that one. Basic bitch-ass white guy. But if it's something new entirely that you're after, let me tell ya, don't go to J.J. Abrams, he doesn't even know what that shit means.
Out of all the movies, ever, I think the three I've had the most complicated relationship with over the past decade, hell, throughout my entire 2-decade life by far, has gotta be the Star Wars sequels. The Force Awakens came out in 2015 when I was 10, and I really liked it at first. It wasn't my favorite Star Wars, and I thought it was sort of lame that it got rid of the New Republic the way it did, since that sort of undoes the whole point of the originals in my 10-year-old mind, but I loved everything else about it. Then I saw Last Jedi a couple years later, and I didn't quite know what to think of it at first. It was really more complicated than anything else. Luke Skywalker was always my favorite character growing up in all of fiction, and he's still up there for me to this day, so seeing how different he was, I don't know, I was 12, so keep in mind I wasn't the brightest, but it just made me a bit uneasy. Oh god, that could be me one day. Then I briefly fell down a couple of bad pipelines for a year and a half or so, a rite of passage in the modern age I'd say, and for a while hating these 3 films was my entire personality, which was, extremely cringe version of me. But that's what I did. I hated Force Awakens. I thought it was a lazy rehash. I despised Last Jedi. I thought it was a bastardization of everything great about cinema as a whole, and one of the worst movies ever. Hell, I didn't even watch Rise of Skywalker, and I hated that shit. Alright, hear me out. So coming back to it all these years later, I love The Force Awakens. I think it's an incredibly crafted film, one I can make a terrifyingly solid case for being the best Star Wars movie, at least on a technical level. And I am dead serious. Like, especially that first hour before any of the legacy stuff happened, it is goddamn electric. It does such a spectacular job at putting the audience in Finn and Rey's shoes. Sure, it may not be the most creative movie ever made, but it's still really great. And believe me, I'm someone who truly and deeply applauds creativity in art, I say as I boot up New Super Mario Bros. U for my 513th hour of playtime. Now, do I really like all the story decisions in Force Awakens? Do I think it has the strongest world building in the universe? Do I truly think this was the best decision to take Star Wars into? No. But looking back, I'm still so shocked at how incredible this movie is from a technical level, from every standpoint. Now, I do still have my fair share of qualms with all 3 sequels, and even especially Force Awakens. Like, I'm still not a huge fan of the Republic being destroyed in Force Awakens. Like, I thought that alone was probably the worst creative decision in maybe all of Star Wars. I thought it was really dumb to see this Imperial fascist regime get destroyed, and then 30 years later, the galaxy is still struggling with that same tyranny as before. To see all that progress just wiped out immediately, all the sacrifice, all the work, all the struggle, all done for absolutely nothing. It was so depressing and honestly kind of unrealistic. Speaking of which, who's the president of the US right now? It's that guy. Maybe I understand these movies a little bit more now. That was a tough pill for me to swallow, but I think it does add a desperation of realism, and I kind of like that defeating the Empire is a lifelong struggle for the legacy characters here, one they each give up their lives for, one that can only be fulfilled when the entire galaxy joins the fight. I don't know, I just think that's kind of neat. Wish this stupid-ass movie did literally anything else neat, but, it's whatever. I've come to accept this, though. Like, it's the Arthurian legend that inspired Star Wars, The good guys win, everything's great, then King Arthur does a major whoopsie-doopsie, and everything goes to shit even worse than before. Seriously, just watch Excalibur and you'll get it. At least Luke didn't sleep with his sister, though. I've already talked about Force Awakens at length, but in sum, I like its legacy stuff. Mostly. I think Leia is the most mistreated Star Wars character, ever. She never got enough attention, enough development. And that goes for the originals, too. What was her character arc? Seriously, tell me, what was her character arc in the original trilogy? She didn't get one, because she wasn't treated like a main character. Luke gets one, Han gets one, hell, even Lando gets one for some reason, but not Leia. Fucking Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Vader get more character development than she does. And Force Awakens follows in suit with that. But I like what it did with Han, except for that scene where he and Leia just tell each other stuff they already know. God, I can't tell if I hate these movies or not. Jesus. But that brings me right to Episode 8, The Last Jedi, what I believe to be the most controversial movie ever made. Right up there with The Last Temptation of the Christ, because if there's anyone more powerful than Jesus Christ himself, it's the real Jesus. And like I said, I used to hate it vigorously, but nowadays it's more of a mixed bag for me. Overall, I do think it's still kind of a bad movie. I love so much about it, specifically regarding the stuff I'm fixing to blabber on about, but there's also a lot of it that just does not work. Could have worked if it was just slightly reworked, and could have been way better if the deleted scenes were left in. But Last Jedi was given this insane, hefty task of explaining why Luke Skywalker would ever abandon the galaxy and become a hermit. Except it was literally explained word for word in Force Awakens.
He was training a new generation of Jedi. One boy, an apprentice, turned against him and destroyed it all. Luke felt responsible, just walked away from everything.
That's an annoying thing about Star Wars fans. I don't think they're very good at paying attention, especially when it risks destroying their favorite little fan theories. Like, who were Rey's parents? It was explained straight away in Force Awakens. Just focus a teeny tiny little bit.
They're never coming back. But there's someone who still could. The belonging you seek is not behind you. It is ahead.
Then again, it's not like JJ is good at paying attention to literally his own writing. Whatever, Luke is up for the lightsaber, just like in A New Hope, the call to action, the call to adventure, and he rejects it. Might have been a better scene if it was edited better to seem less like a joke, but I don't have a problem with him tossing the saber. I mean, he's supposed to come across as aloof and uncaring because he's trying to get the point across to Rey, the point that he doesn't care, that he doesn't want any part of this, whether or not that's actually really true. Luke has grown disillusioned, upset, depressed. He feels like a failure because in a lot of ways he is one, and I'm not sure if this is what turned fans off or it was just the way it was handled. I don't think Luke's character could have gone in any other direction. I mean, not only was this always what George Lucas was planning, but also by going this route, we're given the full story, the full tragedy, the full legend of Luke Skywalker. Luke's character was always planned as a modern retelling of Greek myths, of Excalibur, of King Arthur, and so by having him fall prey to his fatal flaw he always struggled with, he was never able to truly leave behind in the past. It's utterly brilliant. Luke was always mapped after the hero's journey monomyth by Joseph Campbell, and I fucking hate the hero's journey concept. I think it's dumb. I don't think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's really insulting and kind of poorly put together. Hatred for the hero's journey concept aside, he was based on that archetype. George Lucas studied it heavily, and Luke was always impulsive. His hands and feet always moved before his brain did, so in the setup we're given, Luke sees a vision of the horrific things Kylo Ren would do, and without thinking, pulls out his lightsaber before realizing, oh yeah, this means I'm gonna have to kill my nephew. Shit. I think it's the best possible way this character could have been written, except what happens on the screen does not really match the dialogue at all. That's the one problem I've always had with this scene, and it destroys this scene for me. Like, Luke says this all happened in a brief moment of pure instinct, which would work, but the scene is shot showing a trembling Luke, one who slowly, premeditatedly, tearfully ignites his saber, clearly knowing what he's signing up for, which, A, doesn't match what Luke is telling us, and 2, it doesn't match the character as we know him, not at all. I truly think the vitriolic hatred this scene and this movie as a whole received wouldn't have been anywhere near as bad as it turned out if only this one scene was shot and edited better. And I think that's really the only problem with Luke in this movie, because he is fantastic in every other department, from Mark Hamill's beautiful performance, the best I've ever seen him in, to the writing, to the dialogue. It is absolutely perfect, except for some of the cutscenes they should have left in. God, this whole trilogy is just, it's one step forward and 2 steps back with everything. I swear to God, it's so hard. Do I like this movie or not? I do kind of wish Luke had a more of a fatherly relationship with Rey, or something at least somewhat familial. I mean, that's kind of what her whole arc is about, being accepted as a Skywalker, but we don't really see her and Luke work that way until Rise of Skywalker, you know? And people like to quote Mark Hamill to prove that this depiction of Luke was bad when he said he fundamentally disagreed with Rian Johnson about the direction Luke went in the movie. They do like to leave out the part right after where he said he changed his mind and realized he was wrong, though. Oh God, Mark Hamill was so heartbroken doing this. Don't you see when the scene cuts, he's crying and he looks so despondent. It's almost like he was just acting. God, people are so fucking dumb. I can't even. Granted, looking at Mark Hamill's original idea for Luke's backstory, yeah, maybe we shouldn't listen to this guy's opinions, I don't know. But aside from those pretty big issues, I think this is the best characterization of Luke we have ever seen, like right up there with Empire and Jedi. What's really great for me is that Luke's trauma, Luke's problems, they don't all revolve around his own personal failures. No, they may have opened his eyes, but now he sees the universe differently. Hey, remember earlier when I said my hatred for the hero's journey formula was its own separate thing entirely? Guess what? I lied. I subverted your expectations like the lying liar who lies all the time that I am, because that makes me a great master storyteller.
If you ever taken a basic intro to film class or an English lit class or just turned on the internet at all, then you obviously know what the hero's journey is, and that it's shoved down our throats as this monomyth that all stories are crafted from, derived from, and it is a total, utter sham. Sure, a lot of writers have actively studied this thing and based their characters and their stories off of it, but to say that every character ever conceived can be boiled down to this high school basic-ass diagram, it's garbage, it's insulting, and it is complete and utter bullshit. It's a structure we're force-fed to keep our stories simple, to keep them falling under the same propagandistic idea of individualism in our culture, and the fact that anyone actually falls for this monomyth bullshit. It's bogus, and not only is it completely insulting to the very concept of human creativity, but it is just depressing. I would argue that there are more stories that don't adhere to this monomyth than the ones that do. And again, you can do this with literally anything. You can boil any story down to oh wow, somebody did a thing. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. And that's what I love about The Last Jedi, what I love about Legacyquels as a whole when they're done right, what I love about the trope that we get to see play out when an older character, an older protagonist gets to age into a new situation, a new frame of thinking, a new plane of existence, because we get to see a deconstruction of the hero's journey.
All the things I just said about the monomyth, well, Luke feels the exact same way in this film, in a much less meta way, sure, but he understands now that one sole hero saving the entire galaxy, placing all that pressure upon them, it doesn't work. That it only leads to worse circumstances, that that's the problem with this universe, that that's the problem with the Jedi Order as a whole. He's so disenfranchised by the galaxy's refusal to make an actual change, relying only on heroes and legends to save them. Something he let get in his head, something he, in his hubris, let himself be deceived by. But that same Luke Skywalker, the one we saw in the originals, the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed young man who just wanted to mean something, to do something, to make the galaxy a better place, he's still in there somewhere deep beneath the ashes, and that's shown to us through one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars, the one where Luke finally reunites with R2 for the first time. It's so cool. It's like Luke meeting up with his childhood dog again. But ultimately, after feeling this big burst of nostalgia, after seeing that same hologram that called him into action in the first place all those years ago, Luke finally agrees to join the fight once more, at least by helping Rey unlock her power. He's not suddenly changed, though, as he still tries to impart to Rey the flaws of the Jedi Order, using their own texts, their own guidelines against them. Luke as a Jedi would have been way different from this, logically speaking. I know some outside materials, like Book of Boba Fett and some of the comics, have tried to establish him as a guy who sticks closely to the original rulebook, which is dumb. The entire reason the Empire was defeated at all was because of emotions, was because of the attachment Luke and Vader had with each other, so him pivoting this way doesn't make any sense at all. Except in The Last Jedi, him lashing out against this organization he feels like is a failure. I don't know, I think it just makes perfect sense. He tells Rey just why the Jedi Order is a failed religion, why the galaxy's hope of the mystical hero solving all their problems while they refuse to actually do anything and revolt themselves will only begin the cycle of darkness and evil again, which is something the rest of the movie supports as well. And was even more supported by the deleted scenes that were really good that got cut out for no reason. Honestly, I think the fact that I like this story and I like this character direction is heavily tainted by the deleted scenes, and if I had no knowledge of them existing, it probably would be much more negative towards all this. I have a lot of complicated thoughts on Canto Bight that I don't really want to get into right now, but the whole idea boils down to what'll Finn do? Rose Tico, who I think is a grossly overhated character for grossly overhated reasons, tries to show Finn that neutrality, that centrism only truly benefits the side of fascism and evil, that the only way to make a better future is to take an active approach and face the darkness head on, while DJ, the devil on Finn's shoulder, whose name is never said in the movie because it's written by a fucking 4-year-old, tries to convince him that both sides are essentially the same, that it's all a corrupt system of which there is no fixing, that you can't pave a better future for the world, for people as a collective unit. No, you can only make a better life for yourself as a rugged individual looking out only for number one. Now, I think this would all be a lot better if there was an actual tension over whether Finn was going to abandon the Resistance, but we know he won't because he gave Poe the tracker to Rey earlier, but still, I think that stuff, on its surface, is okay. I mean, I like the message of it, I just don't think it's done very well at all. And like I said earlier, I think the way Last Jedi frames the political situation of the galaxy made me accept the Republic being blown up because it works so well. I don't love the Filoni TV shows outside of the first couple of seasons of Mandalorian, but I think the setup for the New Republic has been great. Remember, the Rebel Alliance was always this tiny, kind of weak terrorist group. Them effectively running the galaxy on their own never made a lot of sense, so corners were going to be cut, oversights are going to happen, and the New Republic was inevitably always going to be built on the backs of ex-Imperial loyalists and weak liberal oligarchs, and I don't really think you need the setup from the TV shows for that. So seeing that all collapse on itself, seeing this centrist government fail to actually take action against fascism and secure their own future, I think it'd be great stuff if the movies actually chose to explore those themes at all, which they... do I have to finish the sentence? You already know. But I think it just barely scrapes by it working, especially because of what happens on the planet Crate. Also, I like how Leia teaches Poe to become a leader and sort of passes the torch to him in that way. It's the most development she's ever gotten in any of these movies, but also all the other stuff with Poe in this movie is so cat-shittingly bad, I would rather die than think about it. It doesn't matter. The last remnants of the Resistance end up on this old rebel base for dumb, stupid reasons. Their deaths near imminent, and they send out a signal of distress to anyone, please God, anyone, who would receive their call to come and help, but nobody came. Everyone's too hopeless, too scared, too set in their own ways to devote themselves to such a cause, to overcome their individualism and put forth an effort for the good of the people as a collective. Well, everyone except for one person. See, while a ton of these Legacyquels put a heavy focus on exploiting nostalgia without providing a ton of substance with it, I think The Last Jedi is probably the best example of using nostalgia as an effective tool in storytelling. This is something I droned off on for frankly way too long when you and I talked about Breath of the Wild a good while ago, and I also mentioned it regarding that scene on the Falcon from earlier, but I think the best display of this has to be Luke's last scene with Yoda, which sure, I think it's weird as fuck that the Yoda puppet looks like this for some reason, but hey, I won't complain, we got this scene. Yoda teaches Luke that failure is an integral part of life, that it's something you can move past, something you can learn from, that being a Jedi isn't about sticking to a strict code, that it's about moving forward and taking action, something Luke showed him in decades past, and that's exactly what Luke exhibits in his great comeback, that there is hope, that you can move on from your failures, that you can fight for a better future and win. That's why I like this film's ending. I've heard people say before, oh, the good guy should be all depressed in the ending like in Empire Strikes Back, but no. Luke just restored hope to the galaxy. He just reignited the fire that'll burn down oppression in the galaxy. This is a happy ending, not a bleak one. Some would say a better ending to the saga than, the ending. Now, some people don't like that Luke was only a Force projection, which I don't think matters, really. A lot of people were bitter there was no reunion fan service splooge fest between the two main characters of the past trilogy and also Leia, which, I get wanting to see that, but I don't think it was really necessary. Now, to sum it up, The Last Jedi is a great movie that really fucking sucks. I'm not a centrist in literally any department except when it comes to these three movies, I swear to Christ. Oh, except for The Rise of Skywalker, that one just sucks balls, like huge balls, just rancid, stinking balls, dipped in vinegar. Obviously, I don't really need to get into it. You know exactly why this movie sucks. But when it comes to the legacy stuff, nah. I like some of the ideas here. I emphasize ideas. Palpatine coming back is not one of them. Him being here makes no sense at all. He was never built up. It diminishes Anakin's sacrifice, and it just feels so lazy and so creatively bankrupt. Han died to bring his son back from the dark side, so you're gonna need some big bad threat for Ben Solo to fight. Sure. Okay. You could, just use Hux and his military power. Use the Knights of Ren that exist for seemingly no reason and are never explained at all outside of some mediocrely mid comic books. You could use Snoke, I guess. Remember what I said about fan service splooge or whatever? Yeah, Lando's here because. In fairness, this movie was apparently originally much longer and had a lot of deleted content, including a brand new soundtrack by John Williams that was supposedly really damn good and got replaced by recycled poop from a butt, and we're never gonna get to hear that scrapped OST. That really pisses on my sandwich. Don't worry, it's gluten-free, I can still eat it. I think Lando was originally gonna be searching for his long-lost daughter, who turns out to be this ex-stormtrooper girl I forgot the name of, which is shades of that were left in the final cut, except it comes across as Lando hitting on her. Wedge Antilles shows up for 4 seconds for the 10 people who know who that is. Dengar. This movie sort of treats C-3PO as its main legacy character, which, considering he was sort of the protagonist of the original Star Wars, kind of works, actually. Until his memory's wiped and then restored for no reason, and then he just does nothing in the climax. Ugh. This movie tries so hard to be Avengers Endgame, and it feels so soulless. None of its references feel deserved, or like they're there for a reason beyond appealing to the 40-year-olds. There is exactly 10 minutes of content I genuinely like in The Rise of Skywalker, and no joke, it all happens back to back. Rey kills Kylo dead and we get his redemption. The way he comes back doesn't make much sense, but whatever. Him remembering his father and doing what he should have done all those months earlier, I think was a really touching scene, actually. I like that Han and Leia both die to bring their son back. Like George Lucas said, this is a saga all about fathers and sons, and having Ben's literal rebirth being brought forth by his parents' sacrifice. Good stuff. And then they go and kill him so they can take the easy way out and not explore his guilt or future or anything. God, I fucking hate this movie. I love seeing the impact Leia's passing has on the other characters, and considering the obvious real-world circumstances, it feels really fitting, even though I don't think she should have been in this movie at all. It kind of feels disrespectful to her, but I don't know, that's just me. And of course, easily the best scene in the movie, which is not saying much at all, Rey's little pep talk with Luke. This is the sort of relationship I kind of wish these characters had in Last Jedi, and okay, let's talk about the dumb decision. Rey being Palpy's granddaughter / daughter of his clone, I guess. It sucks. I don't have anything to say in defense of it. It's bad. They wanted to rip off the Luke Vader reveal to much less success. I hate it, but I think Rey's character still works in spite of it. Mostly works. very mostly. Rey's arc, from the beginning, was to find belonging, to find a family, and that's what Luke and Han and Leia were meant to provide her with. The point of her character was to become a Skywalker, just not genetically. To find meaning and belonging in a family that wasn't originally hers, but one she becomes part of, which kind of feels like a metaphor for this whole sequel trilogy, you know what I mean? And this movie still does do that, even though I think her coming from no strong lineage in the past makes it way more meaningful. Luke telling her that some things are stronger than blood before giving her his sister's lightsaber, it's a great way of getting that across. Rey Skywalker, it's justified. That's who she is. It's just the Palpatine stuff that's really, really dumb. But I do really like Luke's portrayal here. It feels like a culmination of everything this character is at the end of the day. After everything he's done and everything he's been through, and seeing him finally lift the X-Wing, it's like they're actually using fan service to tell a story. To convey a character arc, it's like JJ took a bathroom break and an actually competent writer took over for 5 minutes. But I will say, that wig is awful. 6, 4, 3. Moving on. Okay, so I kind of talked about Star Wars like way more than I wanted to, so I'm going to speed through the rest of the ones that I want to gab about. So Space Jam 2 was ass. I don't care enough to say anything more than,
What are we having for dinner? Spaghetti and meatballs?
Oh, that's my favorite.
yeah, it's bad. I've yet to see Jurassic Park in its entirety because I prefer to sit my ass on the couch and avoid watching it or going to therapy to work through my issues so I can sit through Jurassic Park. But somehow I'm even less interested in Jurassic World. You know, I don't think Dead Men Tell No Tales counts as a legacy sequel considering how closely it follows up at World's End, but my god, it feels so similar to Force Awakens, it's kind of hard to ignore. It's fine. Rambo sucks. Mad Max Fury Road is probably really good, but I haven't seen it yet because I got a DVD copy, and the only thing I own that plays DVDs right now is my 13-year-old PS4 that's being held together by cobwebs and sticky tack. 28 years later, it was apparently shot primarily using the same iPhone I have, granted with like actual professional grade lenses and rigs and whatnot, but that's still really, really cool. I still haven't seen it, but like I want to eventually. I don't give a moose end about Top Gun. They made a fourth Matrix? They made a second The Shining? Blade Runner 2049 is the greatest legacy sequel of all time, hands down. Creed is a close second, but that movie still has its issues. This one does not. The way this movie expands on and explores its predecessor's themes of identity and breaks down what is human, what is real, is only outdone by that first Blade Runner. Hell, this one might actually do it better. You and I should talk about it more in depth one day, but fantastic movie, obviously. I refuse to talk about the 2023 Flash movie. God, it's so bad. But it is not, in any way, a legacy sequel. This cardboard cutout of Michael Keaton's Batman is not Michael Keaton's Batman at all. And that one gross-looking CGI scene where they show you all these old actors and characters brought back to life, it feels like such a spit in the face to what they were, especially George Reeves. No joke, I think this is my least favorite blockbuster film of all time. It's ugh. The 2025 Naked Gun is, I don't think it's a legacy sequel at all. It doesn't break down those themes of legacy or the passage of time, and my happy ass it isn't one because this is way better. They just said, hey, let me do the same thing as the previous ones, but just in the modern day, and it works perfectly. Alright, let's talk about Dial of Destiny. People do not like this movie at all. They act like it killed their childhood teddy bear or something, and I think it's alright. Better than Temple of Doom and Kingdom of the Crystal Meth, that's for sure. When you think about it, Raiders, Crystal Skull, and this movie all kind of form their own trilogy, and I don't know how to feel about that. Imagine this. It's 2023. Sleepy Joe announces he's running for re-election. Tears of the Kingdom just came out. You start a game development business in an anorexia-fueled frenzy for no reason and it goes nowhere. And you've just been waterboarded by the Star Wars sequels, and Creed, and Jurassic World, and Spider-Man, and Pirates, and Blade Runner, and Top Gun, and Tron, and Cobra Kai, and Ghostbusters, and The Matrix, and Rambo, and Terminator, and Independence Day, and Mary Poppins, and Dr. Sleep, and Bill and Ted, and Coming to America, and Avatar, and the old Burger King logo, and a zillion other sequels coming out years after the original, with those old characters now being old and depressed and lame. Indiana Jones doing this, again, just felt like the straw that broke the camel's back. Seriously, we haven't really gotten many Lego sequels since this one bombed, and it's not at all hard to see why. The idea of a geriatric Harrison Ford still being the action hero Indiana Jones was just way too ridiculous and frankly way too depressing to take seriously. And I won't lie, it is kind of weird, but I don't know, again, I think this movie is just fine. I will say this, I know for a fact, that most people who complain about how bad this movie is have not actually watched it themselves. They say this movie is just Force Awakens again, that Dial of Destiny abides by all the boring, played-out Legacyquel tropes, that Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character is a generic Legacyquel protagonist, which, no. No. In fairness to the movie, it does subvert a lot of those overdone Legacyquel tropes. Like, it wants you to think at first that Helena is going to be the next Rey, the next person to be passed the torch to, which, no, she's a morally gray side character. By no means is she in any way the next Indiana Jones, or the female Indiana Jones, or whatever. I like that this movie was actually insane enough to do the time travel thing. Like, it feels very fitting for this series, the whole, history thing. In the hands of any other director, it probably would have come across as super hokey and super cringeworthy, but they kind of made it work here, and I actually really respect them for doing it. I like that it killed off Shia LaBeouf. I like that the dump they call the city of Indianapolis isn't in this movie. I thought Indiana Jones' third send-off was pretty good. I don't know, this is a movie that is fine. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't really work, like the CGI de-aging in that one scene. Well, like, by and large, it's nothing great. It's kind of just, it's fine. It's just okay. I don't really get what the big deal about it is. A lot of people passionately hate it, but I don't know. I think it's decent. 5 out of 8 nuggets for me. And that's Legacyquels as a whole. A cash grab? Yes. A great way of exploring the legacy and impact of a franchise or a character? Sometimes. Way too overplayed and overdone? Definitely. Worth sticking around in the public conscious? Yeah, not really.
Man, I gotta say, my stomach lining is not doing too well, which is just weird. I thought it was supposed to make me feel better. Might be something in the orange juice, I mean... Alright, looks like I might not even live to get to see my own Legacyquel. Lame.